Dur şunu izleyelim. Adam
So I did
dünya
some
rekoru yapmış.
grinding in Minecraft, and I got
Yayın dışı yapmış.
the world record, kind of. For the first time ever, there's a tied world record in Minecraft, and there was a lot of complication between my time and Raynex's time with like retimes and pausing and different little rules. But what me, Raynex, and the mod team decided to do was just tie the world record instead. There were just too many reasons why my time was ahead of his or his time was ahead of mine. So we just tied it. Also, sorry I forgot to record this while streaming, so we have to watch the Twitch highlight, so it's gonna be pretty low quality and you have to see my caveman face. I'll speed up a couple parts of the run just because they're painful to watch. I mean, if you want to watch the full run because you don't believe me, it's on Twitch. And speaking of Twitch, follow me there. Anyways, enjoy the run.
Allah'ım
And
kör oldum.
subscribe.
Buran kabul edilmiş, niye edilmesin ki?
This run happened about 2 hours into my stream, and I didn't really feel like I was playing that well that day either, and you'll probably see that in my movements later in mechanics, but
Abinin saç çok güzelmiş. Şimdi yalan söylemeyeceğim. Çok parlıyor. Yani cidden güzel saçı varmış. Yalan yok. Çok sağlıklı saçları.
this run just completely came out
Evet yani sağlıklı saç, yani cidden sağlıklı saçın gözü yani çok sağlıklı. Maşallah yani.
of nowhere. So I spawned by a village that looked pretty average. It did have a blacksmith, so I guess I wouldn't call it really average, but I checked into it. I was really
Evet.
hoping I could skip trading, skip iron, or just maybe even skip the golem. But instead, I just get bread and apples because
Bana
it's
da
a
oluyor.
breadsmith. I decided to continue playing it because for me, it's important to grind out nethers as much as possible. Even if the time is only like sub 5 minutes entering the nether, I still think it's important to grind out nethers to see
3
if I can
tane
get
alıyorlar bu
a
arada.
bastion and fortress right next to each other. Because in my mind, the most important part of a speedrun is the nether and the end, so if I
Doğru.
get to those as much as I can, I feel like I have a higher chance of getting a good record, so I don't mind playing out overworlds more often than I should. My plan with villages is, as long as it has beds and food, it's good enough to play, because once I'm done killing the golem, I'm just gonna look for a cave and get the rest of the iron I need for a pickaxe,
3
bucket, and
tane
for the shield and
almıştı.
all that.
Ekstra 5 tane
And
az,
once
8
I get
tane
my
wood
iron,
oluyor
I just dig
toplamda.
straight down for lava, and digging straight down for lava gives me cobblestone that I can use for furnaces to smelt the iron while I build my portal. But I did get the furnaces from the blacksmith out of habit.
Ama şöyle bir şey var. Ho yapmak mantıklı. Şu anda bak şöyle bir şey var. Ho yapmadı belki ama ho yapsaydı daha az zaman harcayacaktı. Çünkü çok yavaş kazıyor şu
I
anda.
guess it didn't hurt.
Hani benim bunun kazma hızım çok hızlanıyor. Azalıyor. Fark etmiyor bak. 2 tanesini kazdığı anda zaman kaybediyor bence. Yani toplamda ho yapmak için harcayacağız saniye 2 saniye ekstra. 1 saniye ya 3 saniye diyelim. Cobblestone'a ekstra kazma. Yo 2 saniye. 2 tane ekstra cobblestone kazacaktı. 2 tane cobblestone kazacaktı. 3 saniye.
Usual 6 to 7 hay bales because that is definitely all the food I need, assuming my run is under 20 minutes. One thing I noticed about this village
Yani
is
3
that all the
saniye
beds I
şey
needed were very
yapacaktı.
spread apart, which
Ama şeyi kırarken her birinde yarım saniye kaybediyor.
is really inconvenient. And I
Kaç tane? 7 tane alıyor. Her birinde yarım saniye kaybettiğini düşünürsek 3,5 saniye kaybediyorsun.
had to run around back and forth and waste a bit of time getting those, but I decided to kill the golem
De
at this
bu
point since I was
güzelmiş.
right there and I could sort my inventory and craft my bread in the meantime. So I got this out of the way, and the golem drops 5 iron, which is really nice because now I only need to go and mine 2 iron from a cave or whatever cave I find.
Bu olay
At this
güzelmiş.
point I only had 2 beds and I had to stay in the village for a little bit, so I
Şey de akıllıca. Ben onu hiç düşünmemiştim. Hiç 4 almakla uğraşmıyor. Direkt wood, ekstra bir tane wood alıp o wood'u
drank the water
kullanıyor.
from that fountain. I looked and saw a bunch of houses over here that I could take beds from. Got one more bed. This one had emeralds I picked up, but there actually weren't enough emeralds to trade with a villager for a bucket. Now this gravel right here, I think I can safely blame this gravel on not getting the world record.
Ah be
I mean, I could really
kral.
put the blame on anything, but I think flintlock would be the funniest thing, so I blame that gravel. You'll see why.
Ben çok zaman kullanıyorum da ben de çok zaman geçiriyorum
Now
o
I
yüzden.
decide I'm done with the village, so I leave with only 4 beds, which is very risky on its own, but I have a very high chance of getting enough string trades from a bastion for at least one.
Bu arada ben ona katılıyorum. 4 yatak bence yeterli. Overworld'de. 4 yataktan sonrası zaten Nether trade ile geliyor.
Or 2 more extra beds. So I'm perfectly fine leaving with 4, and I find the tiniest cave ever. I thought it would just be a dead end, but it actually goes down a little bit. So I start digging down because lava dousing, I think you dig at the start of a cave. I still don't really understand
2.5'da
it.
şeyden çıktı
But it
ama.
seems to work, so I do it anyway, and I'm
Adam
gonna
çok
skip
hızlı
this one because
yaptı.
it's boring.
Ben şeyde çok yavaş kalıyorum. Yani şeyde çok
Actually,
yavaş
this dig
kalıyorum.
down to lava wasn't really the best. I did eventually hear some lava pops while I was digging down, but it wasn't real
Köyde.
lava, and I had to awkwardly dig around in all sorts of different directions till I eventually found it. This is why taking the furnaces from the blacksmith was kind of pointless, because I end up mining 53 cobblestone before I find some lava. I mean, that's not the actual lava I need. It's flowing lava. But I got the 2 iron I needed just for my pickaxe, and I look around the ravine and instantly find some actual lava I
Ne olursa olsun Iron Pickaxe yapıyorlar bu arada.
can use to build the portal. So I set up my furnaces, split the iron so it smelts the tiniest bit more efficiently, build my portal. This run really wasn't that great, at least the overworld wasn't. This overworld
Evet.
really wasn't a great start to this run because I am still entering at about 5 minutes, and sub 5 enters are kind of on the way out, as weird as it sounds, because most people consider sub 4 like the most for world record pace. People usually go for sub 4 or sub 3 enters before they're comfortable with the run being like actually decent. After a pretty below average overworld, I finally start entering the nether around 4:30. I sort my inventory a little bit, and I finally get into the nether.
Attılar
My
şeyi.
spawn looked, I mean, it looked nice because it was open. It didn't look that great. I didn't see any immediate structures, but then I did see a bastion to my side. So I decided it's good enough to go for. It's
Ha
not
dedim nereden
ridiculously
gördü gördüm
far.
ben de.
I'm not sure if I can actually access it because I start going over the hill hoping that leads to the bastion, because
Gider
other than
ya.
that I would have to bridge across a lava lake, which is
Diyor bu
painfully slow.
yukarıdan.
And luckily enough, this hill right over here does lead to the bastion. So I decide to take it, and I see a fortress to my right. So things
Oo
just got
ama
way
yani. Bana böyle bir kere geldi.
real for me. I
Onda da 2500 blok uzakta çıktı Stronghold.
identified the bastion to be a housing bastion because housing and stables look very similar, but housing is a little bit smaller and a lot more broken up looking. That's all I really do to identify the two. Anyways, I go into the bastion without armor because if I can't go into the bastion without armor, I'm bad and I don't deserve it. So I start rushing over to the double chest, which is over in this back corner. I find it, I start digging in and I block myself off too just to be safe. I got 12 obsidian from the first chest that I opened,
Anlıyorum.
which means I don't even have to go on top of the bastion to look in the other chest for obsidian. I just need to trade with piglins. And I start trading with piglins, and this is probably one of the slower parts of the run because I didn't do a very good job in this bastion. I probably could have lured more piglins in. I think I only got 2 or 3 piglins trade.
Bu arada bunu unutmayalım. Bak adam çok net güzel bir şey gösterdi. Bu double chest'lileri
Trading with me at this time with all
arkasında
this
direkt.
gold. Anyways, I start mining out the 9 gold blocks that always generate under the housing bastion right here. I turn them into ingots so I can trade them with the piglins. I don't give them all of my gold because I always want to keep a little bit of extra gold on me just in case there's like a piglin aggroed on me, because the gold will distract them and then I won't, get murdered. My nerves started getting to me a little bit and I'm kind of just standing around like an idiot. Because, I mean, I guess, yeah, I do just need my trades, but also I feel like I'm standing around like an idiot. So I go up and I tried going towards the center of the housing so I could do a bit of like a manhunt route, which is where you break the chest in the middle to aggro all the piglins, but then I just saw the entire floor was lava. So I didn't think it was possible. At the time, at least, I think it actually was, looking at it afterwards, but it's too late now.
Niye
I got my
ikiye
first
giriyor?
pearl trade because all I need right now is fire res and pearl trades. I run through, seeing if I get any more trades. I got one more pearl trade. I'm at 12 right now, which I am not at all comfortable with because that is the bare minimum you need to get to the stronghold. I also need pearls to like move around and also to do the one cycle. Oh yeah, string trades. I forgot I got string trades, so I had enough wool for 2 more beds, which means I was perfectly set on one cycle at least whenever it got to that point. Got my last pearl trade. 18
Geldi.
pearls is perfectly
Öğreteyim.
fine because the fortress is literally right here. So I only needed like 1 or 2 pearls max to get to it. So I start making a mad dash for it. I locate it. I did go the right direction, although I see the treasure part, which is where like all the treasure chests and stairways are. So I actually saw a leg of one of the rooftops or whatever you call them because that's where the spawners spawn. And I made it up. I know that this wall was fake, it just generated over a little bit. I start running down the hallway to look for spawners. I find one right off the bat.
Bak bir tane ayakta spawn oluyormuş. Spawnerların yerleri varmış.
Which is super nice, and I'm starting to fight blazes at 750. Now this is where
Çok
another
iyi run
mistake
bu
comes
arada.
in is I had enough for 6 beds. What I should have done is dedicated one of my beds to blaze bedding, which is where you place a few blocks over the spawner and blow up a bed, and it basically clears out every single block around the spawner except the spawner, and you get like optimal blaze spawns.
Oha! Oo bak bilmediğimiz bir strateji öğrendik. Ne yapıyormuş biliyor musun? Bile spawner'ın üzerine yatak koyuyormuş. Yatağı patlatıyormuş. Bütün blokları etrafındaki yok ediyormuş. Bu sayede daha fazla blaze spawn'ı
Instead, I
oluyormuş.
start mining out the floor because I'm out of date. I'm speeding up the video again because we've all seen a blaze fight before. It's just waiting for blaze to spawn and killing them in the same area. It's about as repetitive as digging straight down for lava, so that's why I'm speeding it up again. Again, if you
Bu
want
strateji yeniymiş. O yüzden
Watch
şey
the
yapmaya
run,
gerek yok.
stream it.
Yapmadı. İşte zaten yapmadığım için geri zekalı
already,
diyor
then
adam.
you can watch that on my Twitch. I started getting a little bit desperate here because my pace was still like completely nuts. I was still at sub 10 blind pace. I looked for another spawner and couldn't find one. I just kind of gave up after 10 seconds and ran back to the original spawner, hoping that I can get my other 2 rods in a reasonable amount of time. I didn't believe that I would have gotten a sub 10 blind.
Yok be, ben 8. dakikada kötü yemek
Four
aramıyorum be.
blazes spawned.
Oğlum ben yine 8 dakikada filan Nether'a gidiyorum. Nether sürelerimi acayip
And as
kısalttım.
you can imagine,
Yani 8'de gidiyorsam kötü bir an aslında.
I got my
Hani ben
sanctuary
normalde
upgrade
5
here.
bilmem ne de filan Nether'a gidiyorum. Sıkıntı ben 24'te hala Nether'da Fortress'ı arıyorum.
Last one hoping to get a 7th to be safe, but I didn't. So I went in a little bit risky.
6'da mı
and hoped for the
gitti?
best. My blind travel was a
Oo çok büyük risk alıyor bu arada. 12 tane bir tane. Ben mesela bu riski alamam. Ben şu ana kadar bir tane gözü olan bile Stronghold bulmadım.
about the same as the one in my Throne World record run, but it could have been way faster because my Bastion
Ya
is pretty slow due to a lack of piglins. My Blaze rod rates were pretty decent, but my Blaze spawn rates were
hayır arkadaşlar, bulduk dediğimiz şey Spectator modunda girdik baktık. Normal run'da hiç denk gelmedik.
kind of low because I didn't Blaze bed. So right now I'm trying to get to a flat open area so I can throw my first eye. I throw it here, and what I'm doing right now is I'm just writing down the angle so I can do a bit of mental math. And this mental math right here, where I pause to think, actually gets added to my time, which is why my time was so close and ended up just getting tied to Raynex's. But what I'm doing is I'm changing my angle to the side so I can triangulate and get a rough estimate of how far away the stronghold.
Bunu mesela yapmayı öğrenebilmem lazım bunun. Şöyle yapıyorlar. GPS mantığıyla yapıyorlar. Belli bir ilk önce de random atıyorlar. Onun belli bir açısı var. Tepede yazıyor. 25.6 derecede çıkıyor. Sonra onun tam 90 derece, pardon 45, tam 90 derece sol şeyine doğru, paraleline doğru atıyorlar. Triangulate yapıyorlar. Yani bir tane şuraya doğru atıyor, bir tane buraya doğru atıyor. Üçgenliyor onu. Yani şöyle gibi düşünün. Şimdi adam burada duruyor. Atıyor. Ender buraya gidiyor. Tamam mı? Bunun açısı diyor ki 23.5. Ondan sonra şuraya doğru, yani biraz ilerliyor. Buradayken atıyor. Buradaki açısını ölçüyor. Bu da çıkıyor mesela 10, bu da kaç çıkıyor işte 18.5 çıkıyor. Al sana üçgen. Bu üçgenden şuradan şunu hesaplıyor.
Is. I was supposed to go about 40 blocks, but I can't really calculate it since
Aynen,
I'm
kesim
swimming, and
noktasını
I just kind
alıyor.
of roughly estimate it. I throw another eye, and I noticed that the degrees changed by over 20, which means it's less than 200 blocks away from where I'm standing. I copied down the angle so I know which direction to go exactly, and I know that I only have to travel about 1 to 200 blocks.
Ama öğrenmem lazım. Yani nasıl yapılacağını biliyorum. Yani nasıl işe yaradığını biliyorum. Ama nasıl yapıldığını bilmiyorum. Bunu yapmam lazım.
A shore on the other side of this island before I throw another eye because I know the next eye I throw is
Ne kadar yürüyeceğini öğrenebiliyor herif.
to go backwards, and I can easily triangulate it and get into the stronghold in less than a minute or so. I turned on chunk borders because whenever you throw an Eye of Ender, It leads to the exact center of a chunk, which is actually super helpful for finding the chunk if your triangulation's maybe a little bit wonky. So I throw another eye and sure enough, it goes backwards. And I can already kind of estimate which chunk it's in, judging by the angle. I crafted my 2 extra beds and I followed the angle and I assumed that it was this chunk right here. I threw another eye to be sure and sure enough.
Ya adamın bak 12 tane gözü var. Ben 16 gözü 11'e indirdim. Adam yani
It went straight down.
hiç de kırılmıyor
So
ya.
I opened my F3 menu. I went near 4-4 on the chunk because that's where the starter staircase always is whenever you dig.
Kırıldı, çok şükür
stronghold.
kırıldı bir
I
tanesi.
dug into a water pool, which kind of threw me off, and then I saw my eye, so I went for my eye and just completely ignored the whole 4-4 situation and dug down at 7-1. So I kind of had to awkwardly staircase closer to the 4-4 chords so I could actually find the staircase. And I pretty much get to the chords I need now and I can start digging straight down.
Ne diyeyim ya,
I
ne
don't
diyeyim.
really have anything to commentate here, but I hit the staircase like instantly, which is great. First things first, go down the middle staircase because going downwards is like more weighted towards the stronghold room or the portal room, I think. I saw 2 libraries. I glanced at these rooms to make sure the portal room wasn't there, and it was. So I went to the portal room.
2 gözü var, 2 gözü içinde ya. 3 gözü içinde, 3. 2 göz içinde ne? Yok, 2 göz içinde.
2 eye, which is always nice. None of my eyes broke either way, so it doesn't matter. Cleared my inventory, and I was entering the end at like
Ya ben bir göz bile bulamıyorum ya.
12:20. I start getting myself set.
Stronghold 10 saniye sürdü. Benim 15 dakika sürüyor. Ne 15 dakika? 30 dakika süren Stronghold'um var ya.
Hitboxes and I throw a pearl because having extra pearls is always really nice just to get to the well faster. It's really not that necessary. It probably saves like 3 seconds.
Tamam, benim
But in
taktiğimi
this
yapıyor.
run, I guess 3
En azından benim
seconds is
taktiğimi
quite
yapıyor.
huge for how close it was. I get my beds sorted. I got 6 beds, plenty of pearls and an axe, and I think the dragon was about to perch right here, and then it just didn't. It was in a perfect location to just snap. But it refused. It just swung around there and eventually came over to me and started, I think, strafing it's called, where it flies around me and shoots occasional dragon's breath. This stupid dragon wasted so much time spinning around. I'm just speeding it up right now because I literally lost almost an entire minute to this dragon. I would have easily gotten a sub 14, but just because this dragon decided to come...
Harbiden bu arada adam pörşletmemiş. Ve yani adam aslında adamın rekoru 13 bilmem ne.
Twice. I had to...
Bence kulenizden çıkmaya çok gerek yok. Var abi, herif çıksaydı bu arada 1 dakika kazanacaktı.
Wait until finally it decided to go back and snap around. Threw my pearl, looked up, the dragon...
Nasıl anlıyor? Bak şeyi anlamıyorum. Evet, malzemesi yoktu zaten. Nasıl anlıyor? Şeyi anlamıyorum.
Decided to go back and snap around. Threw my pearl, looked up, the dragon swung to the left first, so I had to stay on the left side, and I pulled off a pretty clean 1 cycle. I think that's probably the proudest part of this run because I don't think I played this very well at all. I think stay on the left side, and I pulled off a pretty clean 1 cycle. I think that's
Of, çok
probably the
güzel
proudest
yapmış.
part of this
Ay,
run because I don't think I
müthiş
played this
kesmiş. 4 yatakla kesmiş. Çok güzel kesmiş bu arada.
very well at all. I wasn't celebrating just yet because I was waiting for the in-game time to load in because of how close this was to world record. It finally comes through and it's 14:05. I thought I actually got the world record by 5 seconds, but due to a lot of complications I can't really explain right now, me and Raynex are tied. But to put it simply, that one time I paused for about 5 or 6 seconds to do mental math while triangulating was added on to the time I got, which pretty much led it up to be 14:10, 14:11. And the mod team tried retiming mine and Raynex's time, and it just got so close that me and Raynex agreed on a tie. So for
Adam durdurunca ya in-game time'ı durduğu için herifi durunca o saniyelerde sayılıyor tabii ki de round'da. Çünkü yani Stronghold'u bulmanı sağlıyor daha hızlı bir şekilde. Zamanın içinde olmalı. 14-15'te bitirse bile o 5 saniyeye eklenince Raynex'le şu andaki dünya rekoruyla 3 aşağı 5 yukarı eşitmiş. Hani ikisini de tam böyle ölçtüklerinde 1-2 mikrosaniye bazen birisi öne çıkmış, bazen başkası öne çıkmış. Eyvah demiş ki eşit beraberliğe okeyiz.
For the
Vakit
first time
demişler.
ever in Minecraft speedrunning, there's a tied world record. I'll take it, I guess. Also, shameless plug, follow me on Twitch because I'll be streaming all these.
Çok güzeldi bu arada video. Yani şey olarak ana atması falan çok iyiydi. Tabii canım benimkisi bir saat abi, ne farkı var yani. Stronghold Finance sitesine bakabilirim, bakayım hemen. Hitbox'a hile sayılmıyor mu? Hayır, sayılmıyor. Aa, direkt video varmış lan. What the fuck? What the fuck?
Hello everybody, my name is Jason and today I'm going to tell you
Selamünaleyküm
about a
abi.
project I've been working on.
Aa, 50 FPS ne abi?
Stronghold Finder. It's a triangulation tool to help you find the strongholds in your
Ben
Minecraft
tool'u
world
kullanmak
as
istemiyorum ama.
quickly and easily as possible. It works in vanilla, it works in modded, it works in single player and multiplayer. It is great. It does use math, but you don't have to know any of it. You can find it at strongholdfinder.com and when you first visit it will start you in tutorial mode which will
Yok, bunu kullanırsan büyük ihtimalle legit olmayacak, o yüzden.
walk you through the steps of using a couple eyes of ender.
Dur bir dakika ama. Böyle. Ya matematiğini söyle bana. Bir dakika, sonraki ne yapıyormuş?
Track
İzleyelim
down the
bir.
strongholds in your world so you can go kill that dragon. Let's see it in action. First, let me quickly explain how triangulation works.
Heh.
When you throw an eye of ender, it flies towards a stronghold, which forms a line starting from where you are that
Okay.
crosses over a stronghold someplace. Then if you walk to a different part of the map and throw another eye of ender, it will also fly towards
Tamam.
the stronghold and give you a
Burada.
second line. Now the stronghold has to be along both of those lines, so the only place it can be is where they intersect.
Tamam.
So when you tell the Stronghold Finder tool from where you threw two eyes of ender and what directions they went, it'll calculate the intersection point where the
Direkt bu daha iyi.
In this video, I'll be showing how you can find.
Şey videosunu istemiyorum.
So one thing you might have asked was, well, how do I know when to stop traveling? How do I know I didn't pass a stronghold a couple minutes ago? Take a look at this diagram, which shows the way strongholds generate in every world. Thought there was only one stronghold? Wrong. There's 128 of them, and they generate in rings. Around 99.6% of all speedruns will go to a first ring stronghold, which makes sense. If you spawn near
Benim bu Stronghold'a gitmişliğim var.
all speedruns will go to a first ring stronghold, which makes sense. If you spawn near 0-0, and if the eye points to the closest stronghold, then it will always be in the first ring. The reason this ring diagram is helpful is because we can know what ranges the stronghold can even generate. According to the first ring range, you can confidently travel 1.4 thousand blocks from 0-0.
Yani bizim 150 blok falan nedir travel yapmamız lazım. Bizim en büyük hatamız oydu. Bizim yapacağımız Nether travel 150 blok falan olmalı. Biz ebesin amına portlamıştık orada. 800 blok kadar. Ee, 150 blok falan portlarsak çok büyük ihtimalle şeye denk geleceğiz.
Knowing you will never pass the stronghold. There are some incredibly rare exceptions where it will generate closer, but you don't need to worry about those. Now, a common mistake I see a lot of people do is add their coordinates together to see the total distance from 0-0. One person might travel all the way to 1000 and complain that they had to travel 2000 blocks, when actually they traveled only 1400 blocks, which is the minimum distance. And it's basic math, the Pythagorean theorem. However, it's hard for most people to calculate that kind of thing in real time, so here are some reference triangles. Now that we know where to find the stronghold, so
Ne?
here are some
Yap
reference
bakalım.
triangles. Now that we know where to find the stronghold, how can we get there?
Dicilere laf soktu.
Well, there are a lot of different ways.
Kafana gidiyorsam zaten moba sayısına göre gitsen daha kolay olacak. Mob sayısına göre gidiyorum ama genellikle o kadar
And
yakında
I'll try to go
çıkmıyorlar.
over them relatively fast. Pearl travel. If you ever get any extra pearls from bartering with piglins or trading with villagers, then you can use them to teleport across the overworld. Pearls can be especially helpful to get over mountains, which are quite slow to traverse over. Ocean travel. Using a boat or swimming with dolphins is faster than normal sprinting, and over a long period of time it can make a difference. It also saves time because if a stronghold spills into the ocean, you can skip triangulation, and you also don't have to dig through a bunch of stone to enter the stronghold. On top of that, if the portal room is exposed, you can completely skip wandering throughout the stronghold to look for it in the first place. Horse travel. If you get a saddle from a temple or from a village chest, you can try to mount a horse. Since it's based on luck how fast the horse lets you ride it, you can feed it wheat, apples,
Ot neydi
or
be?
to speed up the process. You can also check how fast a horse will be by damaging it and seeing how fast it runs around afterwards. Don't feel bad because the horse is literally a piece of code. Nether travel. This is especially common in version 1.16, where obsidian is far more obtainable because piglins can provide
Çok
it
güzel
after
fikir
bartering.
şeymiş.
Because each block in the nether is 8 blocks in the overworld, you are essentially traveling 8 times faster than you normally would in the overworld. Keep that in mind though, because if you travel too far, then you will end up far past the first ring of strongholds.
Yok
You
ya
can
öyle bir şey
either
olmuyor.
decide to throw the eye in the overworld to get the general direction of where to go, or you can just build a portal and hope you get close. This way is much riskier, but also much faster.
Bu ne ayrı bir koordinasyondan nasıl yani? Tamam da sıfıra sıfırda mı doğuyorsun? Sıfıra sıfırda doğmuyorsun ki ama hiçbir zaman. Nedir da? Sıfıra sıfıra yakın mı doğuyoruz? 40 blok fark ediyor. Ha. Aa bak ben onu bilmiyordum. Okey, 0-0'a yakın doğuyorsun zaten bunu şey yaparsın. Anladım anladım, 0-0 şey yapıyorsun, baz alıyorsun. Bunlardan herhangi birisini de portallayabilirim. Yani zaten hani her türlü 0-0'da doğduğumu farz edersek, gerçi evet yani Overworld'de 0-0'da doğuyorsun. Overworld'de 0-0'da doğarsan ya ben portalı nereye açtığım önemli değil. Stronghold zaten 0-0'a göre genere ediliyor. Benim nereye portal açtığım önemli değil. Portala göre generate edilmiyor, 0-0'a göre generate ediliyor. Yok, Overworld'de 0-0'a göre şey yapıyor. Genere ediyor şeyi. Anladım anladım anladım. Aa bu çok iyiymiş o zaman. Ya direkt biliyoruz aslında.
Faster, because you don't have to go back to your original portal. Run travel. This is very common in version 1.14.
O zaman Stronghold'da doğma ihtimalin yok mu? Var. Yani Stronghold'un birebir içinde değil ama Stronghold'a çok yakın doğabilirsin. Ben şunun bir fotoğrafını alayım mı?
This way is much riskier, but also much faster, because you don't have to go back to your original portal. Run travel. This is very common in version 1.14, because you need several structures
İçinde doğabiliyorsun bu arada. Elevation'a göre Stronghold'un içinde portal açılabiliyor.
in the overworld. As long as you are traveling away from spawn, you are theoretically getting closer to the stronghold. However, this is also not always guaranteed to work out, because you won't always be traveling in this right direction. The strongholds in each ring are spaced out equally, so you have around 120 degrees to choose from and get lucky. Now you might be asking,
İçinde şans olan şeyden speedrun'ı bana saçma geliyor. Tabi yani elinde sonunda şans denklemi de vardı. Speedrun abi keyif. Yani evet, Minecraft speedrun'ı %50 kesinlikle. Hatta %50 değil, %80'e %20 gibi diyebilirim. Şans faktörü çok büyük. Çok fazla şans faktörü var. Yani Seed'in şans faktörü inanılmaz fazla. Yani asıl kıran bence run'ı şeyin kendisi, ama o da varyasyonu katıyor abi. Yani evet, yani şans olmasaydı kimse bu kadar fazla speedrun yapmazdı, çünkü elinde sonunda şeye dönüyor. Super Mario'ya dönüyor. Super Mario'da şu noktada insanın maksimum limitine vurduk. Hani ciddi ciddi hani şey noktasındayız. Hani bir insan ulaşabileceği maksimum reaksiyon zamanına noktadayız. Ya o yüzden bence Minecraft speedrun daha böyle giriş için ve hani yapması daha keyifli.
Well, it doesn't really save time because you're just rearranging the times when you're traveling to the stronghold. So how is it a time save? And that's because if a good runner gets everything near spawn, they'll have to wait a couple minutes for the villagers to return to work hours so they can start the trading process. Getting better at
Ha, bu eski tabi.
movement. You can use blocks in a water bucket to optimize how fast you go across the terrain. You can place blocks to elevate where you
O zaman
land,
trade
so you
yapıyorlardı.
don't lose the sprinting momentum. You can also use water buckets to quickly climb 3-block tall walls very easily. Lastly, keeping angle. You might not know what this means, and I'll explain later. But making sure that you are accurately following the direction of the eye means that you aren't traveling any extra distance. For someone who is just learning how to find a stronghold quickly, this is the biggest time save.
Evet, ben mesela o çok akıllıcaymış. Direkt açının sayısını, açıyı öğrenmek çok mantıklıymış.
The travel is very important, but the triangulation is arguably even more so. If done correctly, you can estimate how far the stronghold is without even being
Bunu
anywhere
öğrendik
close.
şimdi.
You could also locate it more efficiently compared to the classic, oh, it goes backwards. Oh, it's still going backwards. Oh, now it's forwards. Now it's backwards again. So, what even is triangulation? There are two fundamental laws of triangulation, which I'm calling fundamental laws to make it sound really cool and dramatic. Law 1 states that the stronghold lies at the intersection of rays made by two eye throws.
Deneyeceğim
what does this
zaten.
actually mean?
Creative'de.
Since the eye always points towards the stronghold, they'll all meet at one spot. So you can assume that's where the stronghold lies.
Sadece matematik
This is the
şeyini
basic
öğrenmek
idea of
istiyorum.
triangulation.
3 aşağı 5 yukarı.
You need far less eye throws because you can locate the stronghold on a two-dimensional level and not a one-dimensional level. If you keep throwing eyes like this, then you make a kind of explosion with the angles. And an interesting property comes up. The closer you get to the stronghold, the angle increases, which leads to the second law. Law 2 states that angle changes are determined by your position relative to the stronghold. Basically what this means is that if your eye suddenly points in a different direction, it can mean that you're close. It can be helpful to use F3 to get the exact numerical value of the direction you're facing. All you have to do is look at the eye exactly and you get the angle. With only 2 eye throws, you can actually calculate the distance to the stronghold. So let's assume you threw your first eye and it went around 60 degrees. And then you decide to pearl travel 150 blocks parallel to the x-axis. And then you throw again and the angle is now 95 degrees. And so if you extend these lines, you get a triangle with the remaining angle value of 25. And what we want to know is the distance to the stronghold, which would be x. So for this we can simply use the law of sines to help us out. After a little bit of math, we get our approximate value of 307 blocks. And so now
Aman dilciler iptal. Dilciler şu anda yani büyük boy ister misiniz modunda. Çok kötü. Çok kötü durumda. Dilcileri kaybettik. Makinelaşmak istiyorum. Ah be krallar. Nasıl ya? Dur bakayım.
you start to see why this is called triangulation. Of course, this calculation can be done with exact numbers right at the beginning of your travel, or you can just take notice of the angle change at any point in triangulation and estimate for yourself how
Tam olarak yani zaten olay şey değil. Yani millet zaten aklından bu işlemi yapan da var. Yapan da vardı da herifler o kadar fazla speedrun yapıyor ki, DJ'ler için söylüyorum bunu. Abi elinde sonunda o kadar fazla speedrun yapıyorsun ki şeyi biliyorsun. Zaten yapabileceği, denk gelebileceği maksimum belli bir açı var. Şeyi ezberliyorsun. 3 aşağı 5 yukarı açıları ezberliyorsun. Anladın mı? O noktada.
Of course, this calculation can be done with exact numbers right at the beginning of your travel, or you can just take notice of the angle change at any point in triangulation and estimate for yourself how far the stronghold might be. In fact, top speedrunners do this estimation all the time, and it's how you can tell on the fly how much you still have to travel. However, both of these
Onu öğrenmenin mantığı Ender'i harcamamak. Ender'i harcamamak değil de yani adam direkt spesifik olarak şeyi bilebiliyor. Hani 200 blok değil 500 blok gitmem gerekiyor. Yani onu biliyor.
laws only apply if you keep your angle, especially Law 2, and it's pretty easy to lose it because of the terrain. A lot of times I see runners get like a 30-degree angle, but then over time they go on a 45-degree angle. Diagonals are not all the same. You need to think specifically
Evet, bunu
about where you're
ben bunu çok yanlış yapıyorum. Doğru söylüyor. Açıyı tutturmam
first
lazım
I
önde.
pointed. Or you can be lazy guy and just use F3. So the reason keeping angle is important is because, well, one thing, you might be traveling extra distance. So let's say your eye points this way, and instead you just walk like this a little bit. And your next eye throw goes this way. Now, the angle change is very different. In fact, it's like almost 90 degrees. But it doesn't mean you're necessarily close because you did not stay on your angle. So in reality, the stronghold will be about here, and for you, you would think it was around here. In a more exaggerated case,
Doğru
say
değil.
your eye points this way.
Evet, adam arkadaşlar Paint bile kullanmıyor. Photoshop kullanıyor. Yani çok üst düzey bir adam bu. Belli yani.
And you travel like this. And then the eye points back this
Biz
way.
hala Paint.
When the stronghold's actually way over here. Now, this is a lot of information and all, but it can be hard to process all of it. So I'll make up some example runs.
Illustrator Photoshop'ta değil. İşte o kadar fakirim,
Runner one is
anlamadım
close
bile.
to spawn. He throws his first eye and keeps angle very well and enters the first ring. He throws his second eye and it continues forward. After another 200 blocks, he gets off his line to throw again, and it changes angle slightly, so he knows it's close. After another 100 blocks, he goes off his line to throw, and it points close to where he was before. Then he proceeds to dig down. Let's assume runner 2 runs the exact same world and starts out close to spawn. He does all the same things as runner 1 does, but does not keep angle well. He enters the first ring and throws his second eye. The angle changes drastically, but not because he is close. He throws and travels more and realizes that he made a mistake in initially losing angle. After a while, he finally finds it. Finally, runner 3 plays a different world. Throughout the run, he travels in one direction in order to get the things he needs for the run.
Evet,
When he
kafada
throws his
üçgeni
first eye,
canlandırmak
he's already
lazım.
very
Aynen öyle. Ne güzel bitiriyorlar ya, bir dakika merak ettim. Bu video çok iyi Dragon'ın mantığına.
So we got a dragon.
27
We
dakika.
got some beacons.
So
These
you
are
do need to
mysterious beacons.
yeah, you need to fix it up a little bit. So if you go straight down, there's some sand blocks on the ground. There's 2 sand blocks you need to remove. Yeah, right there. Can you swap that with a blue stained glass?
Okay.
So yeah, it's looking pretty crazy. If you fly upwards, we'll be able to get a better understanding. So have you heard of east-west and north-south perching?
Only because I saw it was in the titles of one of your videos.
Yeah. Do you want to go down a little bit just so we can see everything? So if you look east-west, you'll see that there's obsidian pillars east and west of the fountain.
Okay.
And
Yeah,
if you go
sure.
to those
And there's
obsidian
not
pillars,
north-south. Sure.
right? Yeah. So if you go to the
Okay.
obsidian pillars, you'll see there's a red beacon. So that that designates all of the red beacons are perch nodes. So I probably should have clarified
Okay.
that first. All of these beacons are nodes.
Yeah.
All
I
nodes
kinda
have
figured
their own
that.
behaviors.
Okay.
Yeah. So the blue ones aren't actually any different to the lime ones. They're exactly the same. Something else.
But they're closer.
Yeah. So that's kind of why they're blue.
Yani
Okay.
All right. So how should I start explaining?
kırmızıya
So
gelince mi
the dragon
şey
has,
yapıyor?
I believe, 5 like relevant phases. So the
Ya 30 saniyede 2 kere pörşledi, kafayı yiyeceğim.
primary phase is called general phase, I think, and that's where the dragon is just flying around. You know, one of
İki
the
kere.
either lime or blue nodes.
Kudurmuş
So it
gibi
randomly-
pörşlüyor, bizde
randomly
bekliyor
chooses a
tepede.
node, it randomly flies to it once it's happy with flying towards the node and circling it. It'll swap phases.
Bir daha
So it
pörşlese
encircles the
ekrana
node for a little bit. Is that
kapatacaktım.
right? Or
Yeah,
does
it's-
it just immediately pick its next target?
Well, it depends on how comfortable it is. See, sometimes
Okay.
if it chooses
All right.
the
So
node
it's got a
direct-
cushion or something.
Yeah, well,
okay.
if it chooses a node directly in front of a node, it won't really spiral it. See, like that, it kind of went through a lot
Yeah.
of nodes at once. I mean,
Yeah.
sometimes it'll spiral, sometimes it won't. That one that's spiraling on,
Yeah.
because it felt like it, you know.
Sure. I kind of get it.
Yeah, exactly.
Harbiden belli
So,
paternlerinden gidiyor.
once it's finished walking around a node, it'll swap phases and it'll choose one of 3 phases. Either normal phase again, where it'll go over around a node again, sorry. The towers bear no relevance. The towers mean absolutely nothing, only the nodes.
Sure.
Okay. So it'll fly around a node,
Vay
swap
be.
phases. Either it'll go normal again.
Ve
and
oyunla
another
ilgili çok
node
garip şeyler
swap,
öğreniyoruz ha
or
bunları
it'll go
izleyerek.
into strafing phase, which is
Mhm.
otherwise known as the fireball phase.
Sure.
So when it goes into strafing phase, it
Bak yine
needs to
pörşledi
fireball the
Allah'ın
player.
belası.
It can't swap phases out of strafing until it fireballs. So if you've seen perch strats, where you go up in a tower, the reason we tower is so that we can get fireballs as soon as the dragon wants to fireball. It needs to fireball. So when we tower up in the end, we're trying to lure in fireballs. It's better than, like, some people, they'll hide behind the obsidian pillars, but that really slows the dragon down because it needs to fly a further distance because it needs to get line of sight to shoot a fireball.
Mhm.
Bunları nasıl buluyorlar? Evet,
But
ben de
of
onu
course,
anlamıyorum.
The third phase that it can change into after doing normal phase or after shooting a fireball is perch approach. So there's 2 perch phases, perch approach and perching. So perch approach is the one you'll be familiar with, where in east-west at least, it'll circle around a tower or around a node.
To be honest, I know I have seen other speedrunners talk about, oh, it's about to perch, but I didn't actually know what the strict criteria for that was. Can you
Right.
describe that in a little bit more detail?
Heh,
'Cause I'm
evet.
not familiar.
Evet, tek bunu öğrenmek istiyorum. Nasıl pörşleyeceğini anlıyorlar. Ben hala anlamıyorum.
So do you want to stand on top of either the east or the west obsidian pillar?
Okay.
So a speedrunner will be standing on top of here, or maybe even standing on the ground underneath this one, and looking at the opposite obsidian pillar.
Mhm.
And when the dragon looks like it's flying over there, by the way, the dragon doesn't listen to the player if you're in spectator. Maybe switching to
Sure.
creative might make this a bit
Okay.
better. Maybe it'll do it.
Ha, diyor ki bir pillar'a gidiyor ve direkt karşısındaki pillar'a bakıyorsa pörçlüyor.
Better demonstration.
Okay.
So what the speedrunner is looking for when standing on top of this pillar is waiting for the dragon to fly to the opposite pillar, and it'll climb that pillar. And then suddenly you'll see the snap. I'm sure you're familiar with the dragon's snap.
Yeah, when it points towards the middle, is that what you're talking about?
Right.
Or
so
no? Yeah, okay.
that's the snap only happens when it goes from perch approach to perching. Looks like it might be circling that node over there. That
Yeah, it
perch
does look
node.
like it, doesn't it?
Yeah. So the dragon.
That's the red node?
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
what the red one is?
Yep. So
Okay.
that's a perch node.
Does it always get to its like certain height or something like that?
Yep. So for nodes, it gets above all of the blocks in the node, and then it chooses a random number between 0 and 20, I believe. of
Okay.
how much higher it wants.
Siktir. Diyor ki, ciddi ilk defa anladım bu arada. Çok enteresan. Şimdi şöyle. Purge'leyeceği zaman bir şey yapıyor. Bu mesela şu kırmızı nodun etrafına dönüyor. Bu kırmızıların etrafına dönüyor. Purge'leyeceği zaman her zaman bu kırmızıların etrafına dönüyor. Dönmeye başlıyor ya. Dönmeye başlayınca şöyle yapıyormuş. Hani biz hep en uzun bloğu arıyorduk ya. Karşı tarafın en uzun olması gerekiyor. Ejderha her zaman bu nodun, yani bu kırmızı çizginin içinde bulunduğu en yüksek bloğa kadar çıkmak zorunda. Yani burada buraya kadar çıkmak zorunda. En yükseğe kadar çıkıyor. En yükseğe çıktıktan sonra 0 ile 20 arasında bir random atıyor. 0 gelirse direkt, hani bunun en yükseğine çıktığı anda tak diye pörşlemeye başlıyor. 20 gelirse 20'ye kadar da yükselmeye devam ediyor.
And then suddenly you'll see the snap into the
F3'ü açtı.
thing phase that it can change into.
Bir Southeast şeyini
Nodes.
dinlemek istiyorum.
So
Bir.
But they're closer.
So perching.
Only because I saw it was in the titles of one of your videos.
Or perching.
Only because I saw it was in the titles of one of your videos.
Yeah. Do you want to go down a little bit just so we can see everything? So if you look east-west, you'll see that there's obsidian pillars
East-west.
east and west of the fountain.
Okay.
Tamam.
And
Yeah,
if you go
sure.
to those
And there's
obsidian
not north
pillars,
south. Sure.
right? Yeah. So if you go to the
Okay.
obsidian pillars, you'll see there's a red beacon.
Ha! Az siktir. Tamam. Şöyle bizim bazen anlamıyorduk, bazen anlıyorduk ya. Onun sebebi de şuymuş abi. Sadece East ve West beacon'lar, hani bu şeyler şeyin içinde. Pillars'ın içinde, bu obsidian yapısının içinde. Diğerlerinde hepsinde obsidian'ın yanında. O yüzden bu bloğun en tepesine kadar çıkmak zorunda değil. 0 ile 20 arasında attığında 20 burası gelse buradan buraya inecek. 0 gelirse tak diye purge'lüyor. Hızlı purge'lüyor. Ya o yüzden biz bu purge'leme 123 taktiğini yaparken en büyük hatamız şuymuş. East veya West değil, biz en uzuna göre dengeliyorduk ya, onu yanlış yapıyormuşuz. Ya batıda ya da doğudaki pillar'ı seçmemiz gerekiyormuş. 0.20 denilen şey. 0.20 yükseklik ya. Yani şöyle, bu ejderha purge'leyecekse mesela bu node bu obsidian bloğunun içinde ya. Buraya kadar yükselecek. Tam şu obsidian, daha şu kristale kadar yükselecek. Ondan sonra ejderhanın kodunda şöyle bir şey var. 0 ile 20 arasında random bir sayı atıyor. Diyelim ki 10. Bu kristal mesela diyelim 100 yükseklik olarak y yüzde. 110'a kadar yükseliyor. 110'dan sonra purge'lemeye başlıyor.
So that that designates.
Evet. Yani East, yani ya doğu ya da batıdaki kuleye gideceğiz. Hangi kule daha kısaysa ona gideceksin, doğu veya batıdaki. Karşıdaki kule ondan daha uzun olduğu için daha uzun sürede purge'leyecek.
Snap.
Yeah.
That.
Yep. So for nodes, it gets above all of the blocks in the node, and then it
Asiktir.
chooses
Cidden
a random
öğrenmiş
number
oldum.
between 0 and 20, I believe.
Tamamen random atıyormuşuz ha. Biliyormuşuz bir şeyler ama şey gibi bu. Hani sınava hazırlanırsın, abi her şeyi biliyorum gibi gidersin, sonra hiç bok bilmediğini fark edersin ya sınavda. Böyle soruya bakarsın, soru sana bakar. Sen hocaya bakarsın, hoca sana bakmaz.
Of
Okay.
how much higher it wants to be above the blocks, which is very odd, but that's Minecraft.
Tam o yani. Tam
Okay,
oymuşuz şu ana
yes,
kadar.
Snap.
Yeah.
And then the purge.
Chooses a random number between 0 and 20 above the blocks for some reason.
So if you get really short towers on the east-west line, he could perch really low.
That's right.
Ama evet, şanssızsan şeyde de doğu batı şeylerinde de kuleler çok kısaysa sıçtın. Ayrıca da bir şey yok diyor.
And so
Doğu batı anlaşılıyor mu? Yes, anlaşılıyor, bak burada. Facing yazıyor ya. Oradan
generally I
anlaşılıyor.
recommend that people do east-west. But when you're really grinding down the times, like going for sub 20 or sub 25, world record attempts, that kind of thing, north south is definitely the preferred method. So do you want to stand
Because
either...
Ha. Ama rekor deniyorsan kuzey güney daha çok işe
the perch is
yarıyormuş.
lower.
So do you want
Is
to
that why?
stand either at the north or south?
Onun sebebi de daha kısa sürede purge'lüyor. Daha kısa süreden kastım şey. Yani doğu batıda hazırlanmak için daha fazla zaman oluyor. Çünkü çok yukarıdan purge'lüyor. Ama yani rekor kırmak istiyorsan, dünya rekoruna gideceksen adamın direkt inmesini istiyorsun. O yüzden kuzey güney yapıyor adam. Ben kuzey güneye yetişemeyeceğim için doğu batı yapacağım. Sentezleyeceğiz.
So you'll see there's
Sure.
no pillar at all. So there's no blocks to
Yeah.
obscure the dragon. So the dragon doesn't need to count up 20 blocks. It doesn't need to fly above
Yeah.
any blocks. When it enters perch approach phase, which it'll do randomly, either after shooting a fireball or after going around a general phase node, as soon as it hits the red node, it snaps. There's no spiraling going up a tower. There's no 0 to 20 blocks above the blocks. Or above the pillar. It snaps instantly, which saves anywhere between like 10 and 30 seconds. Which is crazy.
Bak
Maybe
şimdi
this will
dönecek,
snap
tak
here.
diye snapleyecek.
Looks like it's
Looks
doing
like-
a bit of spiraling. There's the
Aha,
snap.
Yeah.
bak kilitlendi
It
direkt.
looks like it
the-
went around the blue one once and then it went to the red one or something.
Yeah, maybe.
I'm not sure though.
Ben bu purge'e 80 yetişemem. Elim götüme kaçar. O yüzden bunu yapmayacağız.
This other thing of just the dragon is it does things when it's comfortable.
Okay.
It'll circle around like odd nodes sometimes just because the dragon is weird. So do you want to find the obsidian platform? I think it generates in the E.
Vay be. Bu çok güzelmiş. Dur, ilk önce şey deneyeceğiz abi. Triangulation deneyelim. Allow cheats. Bir iki üç olayı başı çıktı. 1-2-3 olayı doğru bu arada. O da var. O hızlı purge ama işte şimdi eksi 2 kırıldı değil mi? Ne diyeyim ya, ne diyeyim yani? Biz blok geldiğimizi düşünelim. Eksi 4. Ha bu. O zaman bu. Bakmıyorsun kendine. Bakıyorum. Bu 1600-1700 blok falan uzakta. Aynen. Aynı hizada gittim. Evet, aynı hizada gitmem gerekiyor. Başka bir haritada daha deneyelim. Quick math. Quick maths. Tam o yani. Nerede okuyorum dereceyi? F3'te facing south yazıyor ya, oradaki bak şu anda 13. 13.9. Onun gibi düşünün. ...89 gibi. Hatta 90 gibi. Şimdi tam buraya geldiyse o zaman ben böyle gideceğim. Bir 100 blok kadar ilerlemeye çalışıyorum. Bu da 92 gibi. O zaman bu da 1600 gibi bir şey o zaman. Bu biraz daha 1500'den biraz daha fazla olması lazım. Bir öncekine göre daha fazlası olmalı lazım. Çünkü bu düzlem böyle küçük açıda 1600 gibi bir şey olması lazım bunda. Aynen bak bu daha yüksek olması lazım. Biraz daha sağ tarafta bu. Nasıl yaptık? Abi ya birebir tam rakamı şey yapmıyorum. Kafamdan sadece hani matematik işlemini yapmıyorum. Teoride şey yapıyorum da. Ya şöyle düşün. İlk attığımız böyle gidiyor. Bak 89 derece gidiyor. Nasıl gitti? Bir dakika. İlk attığımız nasıl gitmişti? İlk attığımız şöyle gitti. İkinci attığımız böyle gitti. Ben de dedim ki o zaman şu bölgede. Yani açı ne kadar azsa mesela burada 89'du. Burada 91'di. Bu yanlış bu arada. Şöyle olması lazım aslında da. Anlayın işte. Şöyle olması lazım. Şurada da geliyor da. Yani açı ne kadar büyürse o kadar yakında olduğu manasına geliyor. 91 bok gibi oldu da anlayın işte. Ya bu açı ne kadar fazla büyürse mesela şu dönem burada bu açı çok daha fazla büyük ihtimalle bu işte yani bu mesela 45 iken bu da 90 olacak. Olmayacak da anla işte. Açı ne kadar büyürse o kadar daha yakında oluyor demek. Doğdum yani biraz uzaklaşıp denesem nasıl olur? Aa, olur. Yaklaşalım bak. Arkadaşlar EBA'nıza hoş geldiniz. Bugün Minecraft'ta geometri çalışıyoruz. Bak biraz yaklaştım. Bak şimdi. Bu kaç? 93. Hadi kırıl. 94 diyelim. Ondan sonra 100 blokta sağa travel'ladım. Burada atıyorum. Gerçi çok yaklaşmamışım. Bu da 85. Bak gittikçe daha yaklaştım. Bu mesela o zaman şu anda 1400 blok falan kalmış olması lazım. 1400-1300 falan kalması lazım. 1000 kalmış olması. Daha ne kadar büyüse o kadar fazla şey yapıyormuş. Gerçi 9 derece varmış. Yani ne kadar yaklaşırsan açı o kadar fazla büyüyor. Açıya nereden